Okay, new video. So in this video, I want to talk about an important concept that I think oftentimes doesn't go noticed by people, and that's the difference between being objective and being neutral, because those are two different things. And let's start with some definitions. So to be objective is to be not influenced by personal feelings or opinions and to consider the facts. And so it's much more fact-based, right? It's looking at the evidence and then seeing what the evidence says to come to your conclusion. And being neutral is when you don't take a side, when you don't like take a strong side either way, and you present the arguments that each side makes, but you don't necessarily look into the facts. You just show what each side says, right? And I think a lot of the time this happens on news programs. So a lot of the time on the news, you'll have something like this, right? Where they'll have like these different panels of people. Like one of them is the host. One of them will argue for something. One of them will argue against something, and maybe someone argues something else, and then they'll get 2 minutes to argue their point, maybe 1 minute to respond back to the other person, and then they cut to a commercial break, right? So not only is it much time to really talk about the issues, but it kind of presents things in a way that makes the issue seem like it's neutral, and the news organizations favor this type of neutral approach rather than an objective approach, right? Because you see someone on each side, you kind of assume there's some evidence for it either way. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I kind of want to give an example with something like climate change. So take a look at, you might, on a news program, you might have something like this, right? So in my example, I'm going to be talking about climate change, where we have someone arguing for climate change being real, and we have someone arguing against climate change being real, right? And they each present their case, and it kind of comes across as in, this is a 50-50 issue, there's some evidence either way. Kind of hard to say for sure, right? But if they wanted to be objective about the issue of climate change here, what they would need to do would be to have 100 people on the show. I'm not going to draw all these panels, right? But 100 people, and they would have to have 97 of them support the idea that climate change is real, and 3 supporting the idea that it's not. And that would be an objective line of thinking, because when you look into the facts of climate change, you see that about the number you see thrown around is 97% of climate scientists believe in climate change happening. It's kind of hard to figure out the exact number, but the point is the vast majority believe in it, and that would be an example of how these shows would have to present a objective way of looking at climate change, to have 97 people supporting climate change and 3 being against it. And of course, I don't expect these types of news organizations to have 100 people on the show, but what they can do instead is have someone be for and against, but then also have the host state that 97% of climate scientists believe in climate change, right? Because I think the people watching the show are entitled to know the facts, and the facts are on the side of being for climate change, so I think that needs to be made apparent. I don't think they should engage in this type of neutrality that makes the situation seem more 50-50. It's kind of both sides in the issue, when sometimes there's not really a both sides. Sometimes one side is a lot more correct than the other. And this is also just a good concept to keep in mind. I think it's much better to be objective than it is to be neutral, because being objective means you look more at the facts rather than just presenting each side evenly. And if you're objective, I think you're more likely to get to the actual truth of the matter. So a very important concept, kind of a quick, simple video to explain it, but I do think this is a really important concept, and I think so much of our media, especially mainstream media, is presented in this way, where it's seen as a 50-50 issue, when really sometimes if you look into the facts can really be overwhelming. I think an objective approach is the best way to be empirical about issues, the way of coming to a real understanding of the facts. So thank you for watching.